Jasper. Here I am again with another tier list. This one's very important to me. This is the Star Wars movie tier list. There's also shows on here, but I just wanted to choose one that would definitely have a variety of the movies. So hopefully this one has them all. I probably should have looked through them first, but let's get rolling. So first off, we'll start with the original, the film Star Wars. They changed it to be A New Hope, but it's called Star Wars. It's the OG. It is what launched everything, what sparked people's interests. You have a very solid movie. People will jump all over it for being a simple storyline and borrowing from other things from the past. But like every movie does that. There's no movie you're going to find where it doesn't have parts that are similar to other stuff. Things inspire other stuff. There's so many stories that can be told. There's tons of originality, great practical effects, awesome movie, and that's why Star Wars is what it is. It's because of the film Star Wars. We'll move right along to Empire Strikes Back. Even better. They just outdid themselves with the sequel. It's the number 2 of the original trilogy. It just has really cool stuff. You have Luke being trained by Yoda. Just everything really ties together. It feels like a very solid sequel. People dislike the third from the original trilogy. They say it's unnecessary and unneeded, and I kind of see where they're coming from in that aspect, because you could have ended it with the second one. Like, the second one is so good that it kind of like it has like a good ending. So I can see why they feel that way. That brings us to Return of the Jedi. People dislike the Ewoks. They dislike that it's pretty repetitive, that it's like the other ones. It's too much of a Star Wars movie for some people, which is just mind-blowing considering that the biggest criticism that the Star Wars movies get of the overall main series films is that they're not Star Wars enough, right? That everything's too different. And that's a major criticism that I have towards those movies. So what I like is a Star Wars movie. I like to watch a Star Wars movie, so therefore I like Return of the Jedi. A lot of people talk out of both sides of their mouth. They say, oh, this is like too different, but oh, this other movie is too Star Wars. It's too much like a Star Wars movie. And you just have really cool moments in Return of the Jedi. I would say a very strong A tier, possibly S tier. Like, it's clearly the weakest of the originals, and since I need to put something in A tier, I feel like I will put it in A tier, but it's basically an S tier. Episode 2, I'll save episode 1 for last because it's the one I feel the most conflicted about. I'll go right to episode 2. Again, people will say this is the worst of the prequel trilogy. I do not agree necessarily. It is pretty awful though. The dialogue is horrible, which is really unfortunate because you're supposed to care about Anakin and you're supposed to care about his relationship with Padme. You're supposed to care about his conflict with the other Jedi, but he comes across as a whiny brat and really unlikable. In what, like, they should have just made him likable. They should have just not had that aspect, right? Because you have, like, this guy's Darth Vader. This guy becomes like this battle-hardened, intense, quiet dude. So why not just make him likable? Again, they don't do that in The Phantom Menace either. They should have just made him likable. I will probably put this in D tier. It's pretty awful, but I don't think it's as bad as people give it credit for. Like, there's some really cool moments. There's some cool action. They should have just stuck with that. Maybe I'll put it in C tier. Yeah, I think C tier is a bit better because there's some stuff that's going to occupy these bottom ranks. Just you wait. I think that takes us right to episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I will give it the high ground and put it in B tier. The thing is, this movie is not nearly as good as people talk about. People talk about, when it came out, since these movies came out, the public perception has changed, and I don't understand why. Like, yeah, these movies are better than some of the sequel trilogy, but let's not use rose-tinted glasses here, nostalgia glasses, and view these as different than what they actually are. Because, like, yeah, it's a well-balanced movie. There's some cool stuff. It has strengths, but I don't see those strengths as being that much higher than the other in that trilogy. Like, that trilogy is terrible. People really disliked that trilogy when it came out, and they were right to feel that way. The movies are crap, right? Like, you have this epic villain, this icon, just one of the biggest villains in film history with Darth Vader, and like one of the biggest heroes in film history with Luke Skywalker. Like, just epically huge, right? Like, what started conventions like Comic-Cons and conventions that we see today, these huge, like, monuments of nerd culture, started with Star Trek conventions and Star Wars conventions. People were dressing up as these characters way before the prequel trilogy came out. Like, this was just enormous. That's why when The Phantom Menace came out, it was like one of the biggest events in film history. Why, when The Force Awakens came out, it was one of the biggest events in film history. Because people are just nuts about this. And when you watch the original trilogy, you'll see why. You'll see the awesome filmmaking, the cool practical effects. It just gives you so much more than what these other trilogies give you. Yes, some of these trilogies have good, like, CGI, and they do genuinely have good practical effects. I really appreciate the practical effects and filmmaking here, but it also lacks because the filmmaking works kind of in tandem with the writing, right? Like, say you have a script, the director can change that script, can say, like, instead of the character saying this, they're going to say this, and also the actors can do that. Now, people act as though George Lucas was an absolute tyrant in these films. Like, he made them take so many takes, so I assume he had complete control over the actors, and that's why some of the scenes are so awful, right? And you get stuff like, I have the high ground, therefore I win, and it's like what? Like, this monumental battle, like one of the most important fights across the entire series, this epic build up to this battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it's just, I have the high ground. Like, you literally have like 6 films leading up to this epic battle, and and it's a dud. Like, it was okay, they're jumping around the lava. It was like, it was going well, but then it just ends in the lamest way possible. Like, you don't feel it in the moment, but once you get done watching the movie, because it's near the end of the movie, you think back and you're like, why did they do that, right? Like, it just, the overall film, I have to agree with what Anakin says at the end as he becomes Vader. No! Just, they're terrible. They're terrible. So, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Maybe we'll talk about Rogue One first. Rogue One was pretty refreshing. One of the coolest scenes in any Star Wars film, when Vader goes through the hallway, it kind of outshines the rest of the movie, but the rest of the movie does a good job of making you care about these characters that you have no reason to care about, right? Like, for me, somebody who doesn't care about the overall universe and lore that much, I just like watching good films, so I really liked the original trilogy. Rogue One was pretty cool. I gotta put it in A tier because I I would feel way too harsh putting it next to Episode 3. That's just way too low of a rating for Rogue One. So Rogue One, A tier. It did a lot. It had the most to overcome being like a non-main series Star Wars movie. I haven't seen Solo because, I mean, the way that the Star Wars films were going at the time, I just had no interest in seeing it at all. And it got, everyone said that it was terrible. No one even talks about it, right? Like, it's kind of the forgotten film already, and it hasn't been that long. Like, no one cares about it. No one watched it. Anyone who did didn't like it. They already butchered the Han Solo character in The Force Awakens, which we'll talk about now. Why would they take out Han? It's so unnecessary. Even if Harrison Ford doesn't want to be a part of these movies, for which is lunacy, right? It's like one of your biggest roles ever. Like, what is wrong with you, Harrison Ford? You lunatic. Like, what is with this guy, right? Like, you don't have to do that much. You're an old man. We're not expecting you to do anything. Your character is an old man. You just like have a blaster and you like maybe say a line. Just, you know, just like there's ways to just write a character doing something else, right? They do it in Fast and the Furious, where Paul Walker's character is just elsewhere. He's still around, he's still friends with these guys. He's just not a part of their like crime circle. He's just not in it anymore, you know? And it's just, it was such a weird moment. And the fact that Kylo Ren is his son and he just kind of like murks his dad. I thought for sure with this, what they would do with that is that Han being there was just a like force illusion or whatever. Like when Luke fights Kylo Ren in the second of the sequel, the Last Jedi. I thought it would be like, you know, they pulled the fast one to see if he would do it, and they would have him like regret it and like make Kylo Ren's character arc kind of make sense. Make him be like, oh, like I had to do it because this Snoke guy is super powerful, right? Like I had to do it. I was being manipulated. Like he has all the excuses in the world for doing that. And then they could be like, have him actually like apologizing to Luke later on, and Luke being like, well, I'm glad you're sorry. Now I can tell you the truth. That was me, and I was just like manipulating your mind to think your dad was there, but he really wasn't. He's off like somewhere, like he you know, I don't know, so he did some weird switcheroo. I don't know, there's like magical technology and wizards and stuff. Like you can come up with any kind of like writing thing. I'm sure if I thought about it for like an hour, less than maybe even 20 minutes, I'd come up with a way that it would at least like kind of make sense. There's no way that should have taken out Han Solo. It was pathetic. It was weak. The rest of the movie was pretty cool, right? There kind of was a reason to care about like Rey and Finn and that Poe guy. Like there was some really cool stuff going on, but then it just gets lame. It's like, what is even happening? Why should I care about any of this? And what it builds to kind of blows. But I'm kind of thinking of it in terms of the movies that come after it. But no, The Force Awakens was actually pretty good. It was very refreshing after seeing the prequel trilogy go way off into left field. You got Jar Jar Binks, you got all kinds of goofy stuff, you have some kind of like weird racist stuff. To actually have like a Star Wars movie happen again, it was pretty cool. Like this is actually where I'm going to leave it, is A tier, because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to lead to a lot of cool stuff. It built a lot of mystery. It would have made a lot of sense if Han survived. It would have made a lot of sense if Snoke had a lot of control over Kylo Ren. Snoke should have become a powerful villain. So we'll talk about The Last Jedi. Oh my god. This movie. Let me tell you about this movie. The Last Jedi. This movie is what got me into filmmaking because and writing, and what is probably the first creative venture of my life, right? Because I watched this movie and everything, so much in it had my jaw on the floor, where I thought, why would they do this? Why would they do any of this? This is insanity. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, really? Like, Leia just all of a sudden flies through the vacuum of space and she's just fine? Like, how is this happening? What powers do you even have? Like, why are you not, like, fighting? If you literally have the ability to fly through the vacuum of space, maybe you're kind of more of like a on the field type of general. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Why would you? I could understand. It makes sense for her character to at some point be trained by Luke, right? But why would she not then become one of the baddest in the planet? You know, like, like, why would she not become the like ultimate Jedi warrior? You know, I realized it wouldn't make sense because then, you know, her son, like, the fact that to have her and Luke be like the top two like Jedi out there, and then have her son like defect to the Sith is stupid. I mean, it's just as stupid having Luke give up on his nephew. Like, Luke is training Kylo, and he just gives up. He's like, oh, he's slipping to the dark side. I guess I'm gonna like murder him in this tent. And then Kylo wakes up and like looks up and is like, Luke's gonna kill me? Like, and then he just decides, I guess I'm going to the Sith then. I guess, you know, that's a done deal. And Luke's like, oh, I guess I lost him to the Sith. Better go to some random planet and be a hermit. Game over. Only Rey Palpatine can come and, you know, after a lot of effort, undo my crazy mindset. Like what? Like, what are you doing? If you're gonna have this storyline where Luke loses his mind and becomes like a useless turd, you'd think maybe have Rey activate him and have to like actually fight him. You know what I mean? Like, you could have this dark Luke. Like, look at the little poster here. You have Luke and he's like red and there's all this red. A dark Luke, that would make sense that, like, it would actually be a million times cooler. I just thought of this. If Luke turned to the dark side, so then you had Snoke, you had Luke, and you had Kylo Ren, and that's what Rey and Leia and like Han and Chewie and Finn and Poe were up against. Because then it's like, oh man, like, how are they going to do this? This is crazy. This is some truly crazy stuff. Ultimately, I think that kind of, that's not the way I would go, but that would be a million times cooler than what they did. The way I would go would be like, alright, this Kylo Ren dude is Luke's attempt to balance the Force. He realized, I am this Jedi, I am this monster, like the Force is unbalanced because I am a Jedi and I've taken out the Sith, right? So he kind of like allows this Snoke guy to take power and allows him to take hold of Kylo Ren. And then, but he kind of does a switcheroo, so at the end Kylo Ren was actually like a double agent. So he's mastering the Sith, but he deep down isn't truly a Sith, kind of like, I don't know, Darth Vader, thus bringing balance to the Force. But then Luke realizes, like, I'm old, I'm gonna train Rey, and Rey should be a lot weaker than when she encounters Luke, instead of her being like way more powerful than Luke. And then she just needs a little bit of training from Luke, so she like goes to him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's dumb. And you can literally you don't need to like conclude Luke's character. You could say like, all right, Luke, you could have it where Luke literally was like working with Snoke and like mastering the dark side through this one Sith guy. And they, you don't find this out until like deep into the trilogy that he was working with Snoke previously and just made a deal and was like, hey, look at this, like, we need to balance the Force here. There's me, there's you, I'm a Jedi, you're a Sith. Like, neither of us is realistically going to gain a ton of power here. There's like two of us. We're going to train this Kylo guy to balance the Force. And then maybe Kylo gets a little out of hand. Maybe Snoke gets a little out of hand. They're a little untrustworthy. Then you have Rey. Like, Luke gets a hold of Rey, trains her up. But then she needs to, like, pursue Kylo Ren. And then ultimately get defeated by him. But then him and Snoke have to, like, train her in the dark side. So you have, like, you basically have Luke, Snoke, Kylo, and Rey all kind of balancing the Force together. And that'd be like the conclusion, because just the conclusion that they come up with is so stinky, so ridiculous. You have Luke just giving up on his nephew, giving up on everybody else too. Like, he's secluded. They have to go through a lot of effort to find him. Like, not only does he not get the good ending, a good life at all, he becomes this coward who hides from everything, and he's not even like in contact with any of his loved ones. Like, that's gross. That's destruction of a character. You made this character like the worst, scummiest thing you possibly could. Why would you do that to Luke Skywalker, who is just one of the most iconic characters in film history? You just make him this cowardly, pathetic turd who projects himself into battling Kylo and just disintegrates, just gets like Thanos snapped away. It's like, what even happened? What happened to him? Is he even gone? Like, what was that? He just like turns to powder and the wind blows him away. What is that? Where did he go? Why did that happen? Like he was in this like minute long projection battle with Kylo. It's like, why? It's so anticlimactic, and you end the Luke character that way? It's insanity. It's just so dumb. It's so incredibly dumb. It can't be understated how dumb that is. In terms of a film, it's ridiculous. You have these two like ships going at each other at like super slow speed, just like like it's mind-blowingly dumb. So like Leia's ship is being pursued by like a Sith ship, and they're both going at like the slowest speed ever. Like, why wouldn't you have them like the chase? It be like a regular chase where there's like battle going on. It's ridiculous. Oh my god. And like not only does Luke do nothing about Kylo, Leia and Han do nothing about Kylo. Like, what was Han doing this whole time? Kylo was like turning to the dark side. Like, how do you destroy three legendary characters like Luke, Leia, and Han Solo in one movie? It's insane. It like retroactively worsens the characters in such a crazy way. And then another problem with this movie is like a third of this movie is Finn and Rose, who we don't care that much about. Like, Finn was kind of interesting. The fact that he was a stormtrooper and like joined the good guys. They should have gone deeper into that. They could have easily gone deeper into that. But you take him, who we know very little about, and we care about him a little. We want him to be developed. We want to figure out who he is and what, like, he could be very conflicted. That would be cool. And you have him do this side quest with this Rose character, who we know even less about. And they go to this casino planet, and it's like a third of the movie. They're getting like chased through this casino planet. That scene was insanely long. It's like a third of the movie. You're wasting so much screen time. You could have cut like 80% of that, and then they go to some like farm or something, and there's some kids, and they like look up to the sky, and they're like inspired or something. It's like, get on to the movie. Like, why is Luke on this island planet, like this island on this planet, and he's drinking this weird milk? Like, what's happening? Explain anything to us. This movie is awful. This movie is so bad that I told myself, you could give me 1 week, 1 week's time, and I could write a better Star Wars movie than this. You could give a hobo on the street, a homeless person, like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. They've never written anything in their life, and they haven't even seen all the Star Wars movies. You give them 2 weeks, they will write a better Star Wars movie than The Last Jedi. This is ridiculous. The person who directed this is ridiculous to go along with any of it. The studio, Kathleen Kennedy, is ridiculous. How do you let any of this happen? You like say somebody writes a bad script. You don't have to do that. The director can be like, no. The studio can be like, no. But they all went along with it, and the level of destruction is insane. This isn't F tier. This is some of the worst garbage I've ever seen. It's impressive that so many of these movies are so awful. Most of the Star Wars movies are terrible. Like, I have some highly rated here, but that's 5 good movies. You have 5 good movies, the rest are trash, and I'm pretty much ranking trash against trash. Let's continue. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I believe that's the one where the horses are on the spaceship. There's people riding horses on a spaceship. Again, like, how are they breathing out there? Like, what? I'm fine with the breathing thing, but they never really address a lot of stuff. The movie is just confused and weird. It doesn't know what to do after the nightmare of The Last Jedi just destroying all continuity. It tries to course correct. It just never gets the chance to, really. There's too much bad writing, too much bad filmmaking to undo. And then they have the Emperor, and it's the lamest thing. It was kind of nice to see that, like, they were making Kylo not a true, like, Sith, and having Rey, like, continue to kind of dance with the dark side a little. Like, maybe them balancing the Force should have been, like, the whole plot line of the trilogy. I don't know. Maybe you could have had, like, Luke and Han Solo involved. I don't know. Maybe Snoke could have been less than just a piece of poop who gets clapped, like, with zero effort. I don't know. Like, it's so pathetic, just being like, oh yeah, it was the Emperor, right? It was the Emperor, okay. So that brings us to episode 1. Episode 1, I watched as a kid. I was very confused by it. I tried very hard to understand what people saw in this, because at the time people loved this when it first came out. It wasn't until episode 2 came out that they realized, oh my god, like, episode 1 was pretty terrible. Like, some people knew right away, but most people, there was so much hype. Like, this was a huge event, this movie coming out. There was merchandise everywhere. This was everywhere. So people definitely attached on to some cool stuff. There's some really cool practical effects. Darth Maul looks really cool. You got Liam Neeson. There's really cool elements, but that kind of just blinded people temporarily to the reality that this was a piece of crap. By the time the third one had come out and people are like, alright, episode 3 is kind of okay, they're like, episode 1 and episode 2 are garbage. And people started to, like, really think about it as a trilogy, and how badly made of films these are. Episode 1 has one of the coolest action scenes across all of the movies. The lightsaber battle between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon Jinn. But that doesn't carry a movie. I'm so sick and tired of people pointing to that, being like, oh, this there's an epic fight and it has an epic song. This was really really cool. Yeah, it was cool, but it's like 10 minutes of like a 3 hour movie. It doesn't carry the rest of the movie, right? Yeah, you could say there's build up to it, but the build up is that guy looks really cool. I hope they fight him. He's got a double sided lightsaber. I hope they fight him. Again, we know what happens to a lot of these characters. We know Obi-Wan's going to be fine. We know Anakin's going to be fine. So why do we care that much? Like, it should have been that fight should have been one of like a few fights of equal quality, and that would have maybe carried the movie to being like mid-level. But I wanted to understand as a kid, what do the people who like this movie like about it? Like, what is there? There has to be something about this movie that people are enjoying that I'm not seeing, right? I'm a kid, so I didn't really understand a lot of aspects, right? Like, I understood the idea of effects being something that people enjoy, because I'm like, well, I enjoy some of the effects, but some of the other effects are like really janky. Like the Jar Jar Binks guy looks looks cheesy. Why do they have this character? Because there was so much that I just didn't like about it that I wanted to maybe come around. So I ended up watching this movie several times as a kid, and it wasn't that hard to do because like other people were watching this movie, and I never found it. I never found what people like about it, and I still have not found it. So you know what's gonna happen to Anakin, right? Like, so you have Jar Jar Binks, who's this wacky, annoying, unbelievably annoying, racist character. I didn't even understand the racism at the time, but I just understood this is awful. Get this off the screen. Get this right off the screen. Like, this guy becomes Darth Vader. This kid becomes Darth Vader. Develop that character. Develop Obi-Wan. Why is Obi-Wan so bland, right? Like, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, they're in some room and the like gas is released into the room and they're like defeated. Like, they just look like idiots throughout the whole movie, and it's like, these are the like epic Jedi. Like, this guy beats Darth Vader at some point. This guy, like, he's like the trainee. He's he's like the stupid trainee of an even bigger idiot. It's like, why make them so lame and everything so boring? Like, oh my god, why choose this point in Anakin's life to highlight? Like, we want to see him as like a teenager, as a young adult. What gets him to the point of becoming Darth Vader? Like, it could have been so much more than what it was. And another huge problem with this movie, just like The Last Jedi has a third of it being in a casino planet that we don't give a crap about, it's even worse. Somehow it's even worse in The Phantom Menace. So you have, this is where the second racist stereotypes comes into play, and this one I actually kind of even understood as a child. I'm like, why is this flying, like, I don't know if he's a slaver. I thought he was a slaver. Maybe he is. But he was like that Watto guy. He seemed to have like a lot of control over the area and like Anakin and his family. So I'm like, does he like own them? Or are they like slaves? I'm like, why is he a Jewish guy? Like, what? This guy's like the most Jewish character I've ever seen. This is like, I wasn't like offended by it. I was more so confused by it because I'm like, this seems like, I didn't even know the word stereotype, but I understood this was an offensive stereotype. I understood, like, why would they make him so Jewish? Like, why? I still don't understand it. And then a lot of the storyline with Anakin is about him going on a race. All right, why are we doing this? Why aren't we like developing his personality a little bit? Does him doing this race really change anything? You could cut out this entire scene. You could, like, the build up to the race is multiple scenes. The race itself, like, everything to do with this race is a third of this movie. Just like the casino in The Last Jedi. In The Phantom Menace, a third of the movie is a race we don't care about, and we already know the outcome. We know Anakin's going to win the race. We know he's going to be safe. So this other, like, scumbag racer, like, doing all this dangerous stuff, like, okay, fine. If you're going to have a race scene, granted, you absolutely should not, in a Star Wars movie, have a race scene. And definitely not have it be a third of the movie. But to have this guy, and you're acting like there's all this danger. Oh no, is Anakin gonna die? Oh no, is he gonna take out Anakin? That would be bad. That would be real bad. Oh no, he's so dangerous. Oh no, who knows? Oh no, is Anakin gonna die? Is he gonna perish? Oh no, we don't know. We do not know. Like, are you joking me? Are you out of your mind? We know this is about Anakin, that this is all about Anakin, that Anakin becomes Darth Vader. We know he's going to win the race. Why is it a third of the movie? We know he's going to win the race. A third of the movie in a Star Wars movie. And he's in a race. Oh my god. Like a third of, like, you have so long of, like, in The Last Jedi, you have like a third of the movie. They're in a casino planet, and another third, Luke is being a whiny turd. A whiny turd who won't train Rey for like a third of the movie. She's just hanging out on his planet trying to convince him to train her. Why is this happening? You're wasting so much screen time. Just entertain me. Just do anything else. Any person could make a better movie. You could give me 1 month. 1 month I could write a script and make a better Star Wars movies than these bottom three. In a month. I don't even know, like, I'd have to scrounge up actors, I'd have to, like, I'd have to, like, move to Hollywood. You know, not only in a month could I do it, but with, like, 10% of the budget. And it would still look better than these movies. The plot line, the characters would be a million times better. It would probably take me, realistically, like, half of that time just to write it, you know? And some stuff would be rushed and end up crappy, but it would still be a million times better than these, where, like, everything's crappy. There's no... What character do you like in a Phantom Menace, right? You're going to say Darth Maul. There's no other character that's even remotely likable a tiny bit. Maybe C3PO? R2-D2? Does R2 show up in that one? I don't even, like... So, like, droids, and then a villain who, like, doesn't talk. Like, that's what's good about that movie. You like one fight scene with Darth Maul in 3 hours. You're gonna sit through 3 hours to see 10 minutes of a lightsaber battle. That, like, it just makes no sense. I mean, does that one scene put it above The Last Jedi, where there's 0 good scenes? I mean, that's tricky, right? I think, personally, I dislike The Phantom Menace more. Because The Phantom Menace, there's nothing entertainingly bad, right? Right? Like, if Jar Jar Binks was just a racist stereotype, there could be some entertainment in that, but he's, like, the most annoying, dumbest... There's no entertainment value there. Like, there isn't that funny element. There isn't that funny element to the Jewish stereotype guy. It lacks any fun. Whereas at least The Last Jedi is fun in how terrible it is. It's, like, hilarious how bad of a job they did. It's worse, right? In a way, because it has 0... The Last Jedi has 0 good scenes, but because of the B-movie quality aspect of it, I think that puts it above, just because it has an entertainment value. It at least has an entertainment value in being so awful, doing everything wrong that they possibly could. Whereas The Phantom Menace is just unbelievably painfully boring, right? You're going to have to sit through a third of the movie being... At least the casino planet, like, kind of has some cool stuff in the background. It's at least nice to look at. The pod race, the CGI was awful at the time. Like, yeah, it was kind of innovative. It was new. It was flashy. People say that it was good. But even at the time, I'm like, all right, this is like clearly a lot of money went into this. This looks different. This is new. This looks okay. But I'm like, this is not entertaining me. I've seen like video game cinematics that are at least there's a reason to like look at it, you know. So because of that, I gotta put The Phantom Menace below The Last Jedi. Nothing is enjoyable about it besides 10 minutes. But even then, it's like you kind of want Darth Maul to just slash these guys. You want it to end with him murdering Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, because that would be a lot cooler, because those characters do nothing but give... They just suck. They're just bland. Like, they made... Obi-Wan is made ever blander as they make more movies. What is so wrong with giving characters at least a tiny bit of flavor, a little zest? Like, come on. So clearly, I mean, everyone agrees, everyone knows, everyone's S tier should look like this. Empire Strikes Back, then Star Wars, then The Last Jedi, then Rogue One, then The Force Awakens. To have anything else is just madness, just complete madness. You're just so blinded by like your nostalgia. Or I literally heard somebody say, I like the prequels because, you know, Natalie Portman, am I right? Natalie Portman, she's pretty hot. It's like, okay, like what? You're gonna sit through like, I don't know, 9 hours of horrible movie to, like, you're just wrong. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, she's hot, but she's barely a side character. So yeah, after The Force Awakens, I've got episode 3, episode 2, episode 9, and then in the poop tier, The Last Jedi, the worst of the worst, The Phantom Menace. Just stop liking The Phantom Menace. It's garbage. Deep down, you know it.